The National Radio Symphony Orchestra was greeted with standing ovations in Ukraine, Europe, Asia, Africa, and so on. Over its almost 90-year history, the collective has made almost 10,000 records. The story of this outstanding orchestra, next in the program Ukraine on Stage. The sound engineer gives the command to start the recording process. This is the typical workflow of this particular symphony orchestra, as making records for the National Radio Fund is the main task of the team. It requires not only high-quality professional training, but also intense concentration and discipline of each member of the team.
Оркестр, поскольку он работает на микрофон, то его...
Since the orchestra makes records, its work is very meticulous. We understand that we cannot make the slightest mistake, because once the music is on vinyl, it stays there for good. So this process is difficult for us, and that's why we're more demanding towards our work. Sometimes we do a lot of mistakes, because we want everything to be perfect, but we still have to maintain the live emotion. We also don't see the audience, which makes it even more difficult. Everything is done in complete silence, and we don't even move. There is some mysticism. You don't know how it will turn out, but you still put your best efforts forward. Recording music is the most difficult part. You must be very precise, and the teamwork must be perfect, because you can't re-record what's already recorded. There is only room for the highest level of professionalism. World-class orchestras that record their own music are absolutely the best. The Symphonic Orchestra of the National Radio of Ukraine was established in 1929. The original collective consisted of 43 musicians. The orchestra was headed by Yakov Rosenstein, a contemporary and classmate of Sergei Prokofiev. The famous Ukrainian conductor Vadim Hiyadash was the conductor of the orchestra for 28 years. The singers Anatoly Kochorha and Zurab Sotkilava, pianist Vladimir Krainev, and Keiko Matsui, violinist Liana Isakadze, and cellist Victoria Knyazeva and John Lord, the music composer and keyboardist of the legendary rock band of the late 1960s, Deep Purple, came together on one stage. Since 2005, the collective has been headed by People's Artist of Ukraine Volodymyr Sheiko. The track record of the orchestra is impressive. Over nearly a century, hundreds of amazing musicians worked in this orchestra. Even though changes in the lineup are inevitable, the old guard remains faithful to its orchestra.
Для меня оркестр радио – это родной дом. Тогда был главным дирижером Гнедаш Вадим Борисович. Хочу сказать, что очень трудно попасть.
For me, the radio orchestra is my home. When I just joined it, Vadim Hnedash was its conductor. I'd also like to say that it was quite difficult to join the team. Our orchestra was called a creative laboratory. We always performed the material of Ukrainian composers, our classics, the works of the outstanding Latoshinsky and Revutsky. Later, we also started making records of younger composers, who are now veterans of our composers' workshop.
Композиторского цеха.
Шел по приглашению Вадима Борисовича Гнедыша.
I was invited by Vadim Hnedash, who was the main conductor of the orchestra at the time. There was a lot of creative activity, performances, very large governmental concerts at the Ukraina National Palace of Arts, and we were invited to perform at very important concerts. All the celebrities from the opera theater collaborated with us. That became the hallmark of the orchestra. We were the main promoters of Ukrainian songs.
Украинский репертуар и оперный репертуар. То есть пропагандисты были украинской мовной песни.
The period of the turn of the 20th century was a difficult uphill climb for Ukraine's cultural sphere. It was precisely at that time that the orchestra was represented by a new art director.
В оркестре, я не могу сказать, что меня встретили на ура. То есть меня встретили молчанием. Да.
I cannot say that I was very welcome in the orchestra. I was met with silence. There was a certain theatrical intrigue, and as a theater man, I was even interested to some degree as to what would happen next. The orchestra has a long history that is inseparable from the history of Ukraine. They wrote many film scores, toured a lot, and the orchestra was mostly managed by its conductors, so the collective was waiting to find out who came to them and how it would turn out.
И чем это все закончится.
The result did not keep them waiting, but they also had to work persistently and hard for it. I asked for a year and a half back then, but in the end, all we needed was 6 months. I must say that the orchestra had been a leader for many years. It was the first collective of the country, and tour activity and writing of film scores, which is what musicians live for, and is what supports them in all contexts, had to be revived. The orchestra had almost no concerts, so we started performing in the Philharmonic. I approached the director and told him I wanted to perform there. We developed a friendship with the Philharmonic, and today they gladly invite us. It is both an honor and a pleasure for us. During the management under Volodymyr Sheiko, the orchestra gave a huge number of concerts and prepared many programs on which one could listen to such musical gems as Verdi's Requiem, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Rossini's Stabat Mater, Mozart's Repentance of David, and Shostakovich's execution of Stenka Razin. For the first time, the orchestra performed the symphonic gospel of the Crimean composer Alemdar Karamanov. As for tours, the orchestra gave live performances in 15 countries around the world.
И начались гастроли, которые очень, кроме всего прочего, они питают музыкантов творческой, личностной и человеческой информацией. Они формируют...
Tours provide musicians with creative, personal, and human information. They teach the orchestra to survive, as now they all understand that they need to take care of each other. Our orchestra is cheerful and active because touring is a rough journey and conditions can be harsh. Currently, we're performing on 3 continents, from the Netherlands, Tunisia, and Algeria, all the way to China.
Условия гастролей тяжелые. Сейчас мы работаем на 3 континентах уже. От Голландии, Люксембурга до Китая, Гонконга, Южной Кореи, Юго-Восточной Азии, в Африке, Тунис, Алжир много раз. Это большие площадки, если говорить о Тунисе, то это...
Those are large venues, the theater in Carthage and the Coliseum. Touring is not the main goal, but a key factor in the upbringing of the orchestra.
Очень важный фактор воспитания оркестра.
Недавно мы вернулись с
We have recently returned from a big tour, and I think it was one of the best ones over the last 30 years. We were in China and Hong Kong, where we gave concerts at the government level. The program was serious, and the people arranged a very decent reception for our wonderful team.
Серьезная была программа, принимали очень достойно.
In Hong Kong, we met with the Phoenix television channel. It's a major TV channel, and when they found out that we have a musical group, they asked if we could write music for them. It's very prestigious when a national broadcaster has a musical team. An important fact in our tour activity is that we always establish contacts with TV and radio companies in other countries. They film us there and give us material, which then becomes part of the rotation on our channel. As was already mentioned, the orchestra works for TV and radio broadcasting, no matter how demonstrative touring and concert activity is. In the end, their main task is to record, record, and record.
Пишем симфоническую музыку, украинскую музыку,
We record symphonic music, Ukrainian music, and world music performed in a new way. We record with the new soloists who represent Ukraine today. Different compositions are recorded. In particular, our participation in the Kyiv Music Fest, which is a festival for purely Ukrainian composers. The work is not simple. The music is modern with its own specificity. Sometimes we have to work more than we would like, but it's still interesting. We record different and, for the most part, modern music and the newest works of our Ukrainian composers. But we also record foreign music occasionally. This year it is Polish music. But classical music is good practice. After all, when the orchestra plays classical music, it grows and develops, because this is a fundamental practice for our orchestra. The repertoire range of the orchestra is truly enormous, from ancient music, Baroque music to modern compositions and classical jazz music. Ukrainian music enthusiasts are usually the first listeners of our new and often experimental programs. It is always more difficult to play at home. Every time we must prepare for a performance at home or in our small 500-seat philharmonic. We managed to attend all the concerts of Volodymyr Sheiko because he's one of the most outstanding conductors in Ukraine and the world. We're very proud of the fact that he's our compatriot. He lives with every note. I find that so enticing, as very single note sounds united, and all of them are born here in our beloved Ukraine.
Для меня это настолько восхитительно, потому что это все так едино. Каждый музыкант, дирижер и каждая нота, которая звучит, она прямо рождается здесь.
In recent years, on the initiative of Volodymyr Sheiko, the orchestra has offered music lovers a unique project, a series of TV and radio concerts titled Misteckie Historii and Radio Symphony UA. We follow in the footsteps of BBC. I often go to symposiums of Euro broadcasting music channels. We're moving forward in parallel. Since 2007, we've been writing and filming all programs and giving the same product to both television and radio. Thus, a public broadcaster was created, which combined radio and TV. I've been watching this orchestra for a long time, as their main job is recording for radio. Every day we hear Ukrainian and world classics and modern music recorded by them. This collective can do anything from symphonies, oratorios and cantatas to miniatures, which they perform brilliantly, with nuances and understanding of what they're playing. Even though people in different countries are waiting to see this orchestra perform at the best venues, we're very pleased about the fact that you can come to the Column Hall of the National Philharmonic of Ukraine and marvel in the wonderful sounds of this music. Everyone talks about young people, new formats, and about genuine classical music, and the academic art formats are created. We're also concerned with the format and how to attract young people to spiritual values. I think that all forms of art will continue to develop as it has been developing over the centuries. Art will live on, music will sound, and more young people start coming to concerts and theaters to hear this wonderful music. So I think that there is no obstacle to moving forward in music.